Hi, I'm Martha Beck, and I just failed. I was working on this project for about 6 months that took huge amounts of time and money and energy and logistics, and I really cared about it. And it didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, and I have to start over. And it sucks, but I know this is a common feeling, and I wanted to shout out to anybody else who's just had a failure, who's facing a failure going on right now, or who's afraid of failure, because it's going to come around sooner or later on this planet. And all I keep thinking is, thank God I'm a life coach surrounded by other life coaches, because I can make meaning out of this experience and use it differently than if I hadn't had this kind of training. So when I wrote this book, my first self-help book, I actually wanted to call it On to Square One. Because you know that phrase, back to square one? It's like, I'm back to square one. And it kind of implies that you've lost everything, that there's nothing gained by the experience at all. But that's not how you see it when you're trying to sort of look at life as a whole. So each time you go to failure, it's a period that we call death and rebirth, or square one. In it, you let go of old things, but new things are born. And then you move forward through this cycle of change that's kind of like winter, spring, summer, fall. And it goes around and around in every life. There's failure followed by new birth, followed by dreaming, followed by building, followed by the harvest, or by failure and back to square one, on to square one. And it's a process that repeats and repeats. So instead of just a circle going around, it's more like a spiral, where every time you go through the cycle of change, you're moving forward and you're gaining something called a meta skill. A meta skill is the ability to learn other skills. So learning a language is a skill, but every time you do learn a foreign language or even study it, you also develop the meta skill of being able to learn any language. So the more languages you learn, the faster it happens. In life, when the failure you've just experienced really matters to you, the meta skill is about life itself. It's about how to hold the craziness of this life experience in a perspective of compassion, so that as you go on to square one, you move forward with more wisdom, with more maturity, with more compassion, with more patience. You're learning the skill of life, the meta skill of life, from failure at anything you do inside your life. And then you start to see, life itself is the point. The wisdom, the maturity, the compassion itself, themselves, those are the real point. And so there's a poignancy and a sorrow. But if you have had a failure, if you are afraid of failure, comfort yourself by knowing that what's really happening is the ripening of your being. And that is what leads to deep satisfaction, deep peace, which is, I think, so much more important than the success or failure of any given project at one time or another. So this is the kind of thing we teach in Wayfinder Life Coach Training, and learning it together with other people who are going through it, who are honest and loving and vulnerable, that makes up for any time that I have to go on to square one.